Oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby. A Monday morning on the roast. Having a lot of fun. Don't forget, Friday, 3 p.m. is when the legal tampering period begins with the NBA. Teams can start to fly and send players in and sign contracts and make trades and all that stuff. Everything becomes official basically this weekend. So a huge week in the NBA and a huge week for the Golden State Warriors. What will they do? Will they give Draymond Green that back? Would that be a good move? Will they maybe explore another trade here? They have a team-friendly contract with Andrew Wiggins, 4 years, $109 million. He did miss 2 months last year. Do the Warriors feel like they can count on him for the foreseeable future? That's a legit question some people have with the Golden State Warriors and Andrew Wiggins. Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, you have Chris Paul here. What is going to go on with the Golden State Warriors in the NBA? As we say good morning to everybody out there getting off the graveyard shift. Good morning to everybody getting ready for work. If you're at work, good morning. Good morning to all the big truck drivers out there, carpenters, janitors, teachers, cops, students, graduates, you name it. Now, I wasn't here this past weekend, but got to believe the professional dancers had a monster weekend. A lot of people were in for Pride Week. I bet you business was booming. No doubt about that. Guarantee that. Some money was made this weekend, folks. Shasky, good morning to you. Spadoni, Sam Lovett. I just like making you uncomfortable talking about it.
Oh, my God.
Start to queeze. Stop me. Stop me. Stop me. We still got to play that Paul Pierce sound when he talked about certain things. I want to get your opinion on that. You know what I'm talking about, Spadoni. Oh, hey there. Oh, hey there.
So Adonis Haslam's retiring this year. He was 42 years old entering this season. Iggy was 38 years old entering this season. He's retired. Melo, 38 years old entering this season. He's retired. LeBron James, 37 years old entering last season. He's still going. Chris Paul right behind him. Paul Millsap, I believe Millsap's retiring.
Yeah.
You're talking about a small list of guys as old as Chris Paul in the league right now.
Still effective.
LeBron and him.
He's still effective.
Wow.
Let's bring in Justin Termine. Justin Termine hosted the NBA Today on SiriusXM Radio with our main man, Eddie Johnson. Eddie Johnson's supposed to come on our show, too. He went on with Steiny and Guru Friday, so we'll get the better of the two hosts. Justin Termine on our show. He's plugged in on all things NBA, one of over 100 media members that they vote for the NBA awards and All-Star selection. And Justin, it's good to have you back on the Morning Roast with Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky, the Butcher, here on 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. Justin, good morning to you. Let's just start with the Chris Paul for Jordan Poole trade. When you saw that hit your timeline, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, you're a little bit stunned, and I think my initial reaction is just like, it's almost like Isaiah Thomas and Magic teaming up like back in the 80s or maybe the early 90s, if Isaiah wasn't able to get over the hump, right? Because you got the two best point guards of a generation who are now teaming up, and Chris Paul goes from like having this guy as his biggest rival, or they're jawing back and forth at each other the last couple of years. Now he's got to go up there and be his teammate. But like I heard you say, I mean, Chris Paul is always injured, but I think the benefit here is I would assume that they're going to take it easy with him during the regular season.
Right.
And he plays maybe a little bit of a backup role. He's not playing as many minutes as he has in the past. And if you get a Chris Paul that is actually out there on the floor, I think that's a massive upgrade.
What does it look like for you, the best version of CP3? Is it off the bench, but does he close games with this lineup? I mean, him and Steph, that's a lot of lack of defense.
Yeah, I mean, and Clay's not what he was anymore, and we still don't know if Draymond's coming back, but it's a lack of defense. But, and Chris Paul back in the day obviously was a high-level defender just like Clay, and they've both taken a little bit of a step back. But it's also a lot of IQ, right? Like a couple of years ago, you just had the overwhelming talent there in Golden State. Now you have the overwhelming IQ, where these guys are a little bit older, but, I mean, the intelligence level, it's got to be one of maybe the smartest teams of all time when you combine Chris Paul with Steph. And if Dre comes back, I mean, that's a really intelligent basketball team. So I think they make up for it in other areas.
Justin Termine here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game, host of NBA Today on SiriusXM Radio with Eddie Johnson. Of course, Eddie is a color analyst for the Phoenix Suns, so we had a lot of things to say about Chris Paul. Before we move forward with Draymond Green and what it could look like on the floor, or if Draymond Green's even going to re-sign, what's the overall thoughts on Jordan Poole league-wide? You're tapped into everybody. You talk to a bunch of people across the league. What is the thought process on Jordan Poole? Is the contract an overpay for him? And is Washington getting a player that's not going to live up to that contract? Or is Jordan Poole still a young, promising player in NBA circles that could be a superstar in this league?
I mean, I don't know about a superstar, but I think he's got some promise, and it's worth a shot for a team like Washington to see what he can do when maybe he's got a little bit more freedom out there and he doesn't have to look over his shoulder, and he feels comfortable maybe in around Draymond. But clearly there's a lack of defense, and I also don't think the contract is great, but I think there is like a place for him to see what you have in an area where he goes from maybe the, the fourth option, the fifth option to the number one option. And as of right now, that's what it'll be. And you guys know the numbers, like Jordan Poole, when he was coming off the bench, he struggled significantly. His numbers went sky high when he came in as a starter. He's clearly going to have the opportunity to do that down in Washington. So I think it's worth a flyer, and certainly for a guy that wasn't going to stay with the team anyway in Chris Paul. And like I heard there were rumors that Golden State was seeing if they could get something for Boston with Jordan Poole. Like, I wouldn't have liked Jordan Poole in Boston or another team where maybe he's got to play a role on a winning team. Even though we already did it and won a championship, I do prefer to see him in this role that he's going to be on a bad team.
I mean, it's pretty random, right? A 38-year-old point guard for a 23-year-old combo guard. I don't know. It's a very random trade. How much better did the Warriors get?
No, I mean, I think they got a lot better, and I think it's not like as random if you think about maybe what was driving Steve Kerr nuts maybe the last year, and that's like going with the young guys. And they got so lucky they were able to win the first championship because you were trying to like thread the needle between like winning and also developing these guys, and they got away with it in year one. It looked like they got fed up with it last year. Wiseman's gone, Poole's gone. I don't know if they get rid of any of the other guys, but I think what it tells you is like, hey, we're sick of the lack of maturity. We're sick of like the lack of maybe like basketball IQ. So let's do the complete opposite. And that's kind of what they did. So, like it looks a little random, but I think basically the philosophy behind it probably was we're going to go all in with the group that we have right now. And we're going to give up on this like youth development type of thing.
Just when you think about Draymond Green, Mark Stein has reported over the weekend that it's likely he's going to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors on a multi-year deal. Now, a lot of us are skeptical on what that deal could look like, whether it's 3 for 75, 3 for 60, 3 for 90, 3 for 100 million. What's too steep for a guy like Draymond Green, who we know he's going to bring it on the floor, but off the floor, you got those other issues, and you got a lot of talk in there, and it's a lot of distractions. What is too much for Draymond Green?
Well, it seems like it's going to be 3 years, right? Because it seems like I think that's how many years Steph has left on his deal. So you kind of align the deal. So I think we know that it's probably for 3 years. And Dre wasn't going to opt out of like the final year and $30 million or 27, whatever it was, to take like a 2-year deal. 3 years, $75 million sounds about right. But like in that situation, right? Because I think you've heard it a million times. Like, does he mean the same elsewhere? I actually think like the one thing that would like scare me about Sacramento is I think that's a place where he could go and he would actually fit in. Unlike some other places where he goes and maybe he looks like Russell Westbrook in L.A., where he's kind of exposed because it's not the right situation. Right. But like Sacramento, where you've got Mike Brown that he knows, a team that needs defense. He fits right in by a center who needs kind of some protection and Sabonis because he's not great there. A team that, where Sabonis is a great passer, Draymond's a great passer. I think they could work off each other. Like, other than the Sabonis, like, Draymond relationship, that would be a good fit for him. So, like, that would scare me a little bit. But, I think 3 years, around $75 million sounds right, that you said Mark Stein mentioned.
Do you believe there's a big market for Draymond Green?
I mean, I think like there's a team like maybe Sacramento where he fits. I don't think he would fit in with the Lakers. I hate that fit. That would like blow up, I think, in their faces just because they need shooting. They don't need Draymond Green. I think there's like certain teams that could use him, but I wouldn't say like teams are, because the other thing about it is like, all right, he goes somewhere, it goes south. Like he's hard to control in Golden State, right? Where there's probably a lot of guys that, he respects around there. Imagine going to Sacramento, it blows up, they go backwards, and all of a sudden, instead of taking any responsibility, he's going, oh, well, I know how to win. You guys don't know how to win. This isn't my fault. It's your fault. And I can see that getting pretty ugly.
It's an interesting point I hadn't considered. I'm looking around the league right now, and I just don't think the Warriors are quote-unquote contenders right now, given the roster they have. Do you think they're contenders? And is there a move out there available if you don't that could make them contenders?
Yeah, I haven't thought enough about the moves that would like make them contenders. But I would say I didn't view them really as serious contenders maybe 2 years ago. My estimation, the only team that was worse last 20 years that won a championship was the 2006 Heat. They kind of got lucky with the path that they took there a little bit, highlighted by the fact that there was injuries in Denver.
Right.
So I would say they're maybe like the fourth best team in the Western Conference, third best team in the Western Conference, which I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you catch a couple of breaks along the way. You can get to the NBA Finals, and I don't think they were as good as Boston a couple of years ago. I picked them to beat Boston, though, because of the lack of maturity, the fact that Boston hadn't been there before. So, there's a path for them, but I wouldn't say, they're one of the four best teams in the NBA, maybe one of the four best teams in the Western Conference.
Wow. All right, let's rapid fire here a little bit, Justin. You're tapped in here. Where's Dame Lillard playing next year?
It looks like Miami, and it looks like he's going to force his way to Miami, and I respect him so much for staying in Portland. I don't mind if he leaves, but I think it's souring me a little bit in the fact that, he's trying to force his way to one location. If you wanted to do that, you didn't have to sign the big contract, and you could have went there via free agency, so that's a little bit of a turnoff, but it does look like he's going to go down to Miami.
Thoughts on the Celtics-Grizzlies trade that brought in Marcus Smart to Memphis and Kristaps Porzingis to Boston?
Well, clearly it's an upgrade, on paper for Boston, bringing in Porzingis. He was a borderline all-star last year. He's 27. He had the best year of his career. At times, you could argue he was better than Bradley Beal on that team for long stretches. And we made a big deal about Beal going to Phoenix. The one thing I don't like about it from a Boston perspective, I loved it if the trade was for Brogdon. With Marcus Smart, you're losing from a team that was kind of soft. You're losing their toughest player. And I think a guy that meant a lot in that locker room and gave everything on every single play, almost like the Draymond Green of the Celtics, right? And
right.
I think losing his personality, I think is a big blow for Boston. And the guy, even if you just look at the numbers, or if you can do it without even looking at the numbers, I think you sense the bigger the game, the better Marcus Smart plays. That was that game where Tatum had was one of 15 and 6 against Philadelphia before he got the 16 points in the final 4 minutes. Best player on the floor in that game, and Boston season is over if Marcus Smart doesn't play the way that he did. So I think it's a little bit of a loss. So I think it comes out even just based off of, hey, you got the better player, you got a couple of first-round picks, but you did lose the intangible stuff that's going to be hard to replace.
So Justin, before we let you go, what's the chatter about the LA Clippers? Because we're watching Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, thinking that something could be brewing down in Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, the difficult part I think about there is if the Clippers trade Paul George, and then I think they would rather trade Kawhi Leonard, to be honest with you. I mean, Paul George at least is a guy that tries to be out there on the floor, and at least is out in the forefront when he does have an actual issue and explaining what it is. So I think there's more frustration with Kawhi. I think Paul George probably has more value around the league, even though he's 2 years older. But I would think the scary part about that for the Clippers is if Kawhi and Paul George are both healthy, even though that seems like it's impossible. If they trade Paul George and he's healthy for another team, that would drive them nuts because they're capable of winning a championship if those guys are both healthy. Whatever they trade Paul George for, I can't imagine they would win a championship with whatever they got back.
All right, Justin. Good stuff as always, man. We'll have you back on soon. It's a wild time in the NBA, especially here in the Bay Area. Chris Paul, new member of the Golden State Warriors. Since this, we thought we'd never utter out here on the West Coast. All right, Justin. Have a good one, man. We'll be listening.
Yeah, appreciate it, and at least it's better than Eddie, so it's always an upgrade over.
Absolutely. Eddie Johnson's scared to golf us, man. He's scared to play golf with us. He doesn't want to, Saskia, he doesn't want
to get exposed.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Justin, yeah, see, he knows. He knows his golf game is suspect. Thanks, Justin.
All right,
Termine, Sirius XM Radio with Eddie Johnson, the NBA Today.